to yesterday, yes.
All right. All right. Well, let's just get started with it. I want you to know that everything that I'm going to deal with tonight is preliminary, meaning I haven't had an opportunity to get out all the film and the pictures and all that stuff and try to put it all in chronological order and try and pronounce some of those words that were very difficult to speak and to remember. But the overall view of it, I think I got it down pat, exactly what went on. And I want to open the lines, Beverly, right off the bat, because if there's any questions that anyone may have in regards to what's going on, let's right off top. Is that all right with you?
Yes. Give out your number, and I'll give out my number.
All right. Well, let me go with my number first. You listeners out there, you can call in and listen to the program and ask questions if you dial area code 718-506-1864. I'll say it again. 718-506-1864. Call up your friends and neighbors and everyone and tell them that they need to hear this tonight and any other upcoming shows about China that I do, because it was a mind blower to me. It really was. All right, Bev, go ahead with yours.
Okay. On my end, you can call 347-215-8041. That's 347-215-8041.
All right. Well, now let's get down to the really get down. I left Detroit on Saturday, past Saturday. Dang, I can't even remember the date. I'm still spinning from the trip. But we spent 9 days on the ground in China, communist red China. And we visited 3 cities. We flew into Shanghai. We flew out of Shanghai and went into Xi'an. And from Xi'an, we flew into Beijing. Beijing is the capital of China. To go back to Shanghai, the population of the 3 cities we visited. Shanghai.
Ron, wait a minute. This is such good information, but your voice is. Do you have your headphones on?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
We don't want to miss this.
You want to do it another way, right?
Yeah. See if we can hear you clear.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's go to the phone. I think I would have to see. Hold on, Beth.
Okay.
I'm going to give you my number to call me, and I'm going to go out and shut down on the headset.
Well, no, I'm going to have to call you on your 718, so we'll be connected to your show.
Well, you're already at 718.
Right.
So you just stay there. You just stay where you are. All right? Let me see if I can do this right.
You are listening to the Ron Mark Show and the Truth to Power Show. And Ron visited Red China last week. He just got back yesterday. So he's given us a live history lesson of his experience in China. The things that we do not know and the things that was not told to us. The untruth, a lot of untruth we're finding out that the United States have a tendency of not being truthful. So we are really starting to find that out, some of us. Some of us know, but on the whole, we're really starting to see the picture.
Yep. All right. Now, can you hear me, Bev?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hold on one second.
We'll see if that's better.
It goes in there. That. We're trying to get it together. That's why I'm getting doubles. Oh, yeah, the other headset. Let's use my headset. No. You go plug it in there.
And if you want to ask any questions or make any comments, you're welcome to call in. You can call in at 347-215-8041. You can call in and ask Ron any kind of question.
All right.
Okay.
You ready, Bev?
Yes, I'm ready.
Can you hear everything clear?
I hear myself in the background. What do you have on in the background?
Okay.
I just hear the broadcast. That's all.
Okay.
But that's okay. You sound good. I'll be quiet.
All right. All right. Are you still there?
Yes.
There you go. All right. Are you there, Beth?
Yes, I am. We're here.
All right. God, dog, why are you too far? You disconnected me. All right. Hold on, Beth. One more second. And we'll make sure we get this right. All right. Now let's start all over, Beth. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I went to Red China, Communist China. Yes. Ron March went to Red China. Make that clear. We visited 3 cities. We went with a vacation tour company called Wendy Wu. Just like I said it, Wendy Wu. And we flew out of Detroit into Boston, and from Boston we flew directly into Red China, Shanghai. It took 13 hours from Boston to get to Shanghai. We went over the top, left Detroit, went through Canada, up toward Alaska, over to the Bering Straits, over Russia, and then down into China. Took 13 hours from Boston to Red China. We got to China, we visited 3 cities was on the agenda. Shanghai, number 1, Xi'an, number 2, and Beijing, the capital of China, number 3. The population of the country of China is 1.4 billion with a B as in boy. 1.4 billion people live in China. I mean, they are bumper to bumper. In the city of Shanghai itself, the population was 28 million people. We stayed there for 3 days. From there, we went to Xi'an, smaller city, 8 million people, bumper to bumper. That was the most beautiful city in that the heavyweight emperors, all the dynasties, set up homes and camps in Xi'an because of the mountain ranges that protected them from other invaders. The city itself has a city wall, not the Great Wall, it's a city wall. And they gave us a small taste of the Great Wall of China when we were in Xi'an. From Xi'an, we flew into Beijing, which is the capital of China. In that city, the population is 22 to 23 million people. The Great Wall of China is there, and most of the holy temples are in Beijing. Now, let's go back and start again. The weather while we were there was only in centigrade. They don't use Fahrenheit. And I understand when they say zero, it is zero in centigrade. And zero in Fahrenheit is the same as zero in centigrade. So, but the numbers are different. The temperature averaged while we were there for 9 days from -6 to a +11. It was warmer in Shanghai, and the further we went north, going into Beijing, it got colder than a well digger's butt in Montana. I'm telling you, it was cold. The next point of interest was the sky. They do not see the sun. It's too much smog. Heavy. The further you go north, the heavier the smog. Most of the people that live there, they wore masks. The locals, they call themselves the locals. But you couldn't tell the locals. I asked them point blank, how do you tell the difference between Chinese, Korean, Japanese? I know exactly where they're from. Yes.
No, go ahead. I thought we had lost you. Go ahead.
No. You'll only know who you're talking to once they open their mouths. But they themselves can tell who is the local and who are the what do they call them, the minorities. They call them the minorities. The two largest families in China, they said, was the Ming family, the Li family, and the Yang family. And between the two, it encompasses nearly 600 to 700 million people of these two families alone. And then all the rest, which is approximately another 700 million, are aliens, immigrants, outsiders who come in and live in the mainland of China. It was unbelievable. It's what you saw and how they lived. I categorize all the people in China to come under certain categories. They all knew exactly how they were supposed to live. Better yet, born, lived, and died. They all had that all planned out. They knew exactly what they had to do. The only thing that was in unison with all three categories that I made that up myself was any male that wanted to get married, he had to meet. Now this is all males. If you have any interest in marriage, you must meet a certain criteria. Number one, you must have a job. Number two, you must have an apartment. And number three, you must have a vehicle. The names of the vehicles normally determine how much money you got. So when you got up to the Bentleys and Audis, they knew you had money. But the other ones, I don't even know the brands, other type car, automobiles. Now this was not just the Ming family or this family. This is everybody in China. They all knew they had to meet the criteria. Now the girl that you're going to marry, her family must have enough wealth or money to, number one, pay for the marriage, the wedding rather, pay for the wedding. And the girl herself must have a good, complete education, and hopefully it was a good education. When I say good, it was into a particular field that she could get a better job or was moving up. Everybody went to school. There was no graduation of school. School went on 24/7, and you could stay in school for years and years and years. You could learn more. They had so much, you could learn more. I'm trying to pronounce
Is
it.
the schooling free?
Yes, school is free up to, what did he say? Up to the 9th grade is free. Yes, 9th grade is free. Now, everyone in China has a ID card. Everyone. And if you screw up in any way, they penalize you by taking your ID card away. Not forever, but they got a system. Crime is, listen to me, y'all. Crime is zero. My son asked, "Where's the prisons?" He started laughing. They do have prisons. Don't get me wrong, but crime is zero. They got bicycles. Just go to work. If you went to a particular block, in the bicycle stalls, you may see 350 to 500 bicycles just sitting there. Everybody know where their bike is. They got areas for the scooters. They got a scooter that has you pump it like a bicycle, but it gives it electrical power. So let's just say you pump 20 times, and then you sit and ride for maybe a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. And then you pump again to put the power back into the battery. You charge the battery by pumping it like a bicycle. That was when you start moving up from the bicycle to this particular bike. Then you get into the scooters. The scooters, you were living pretty good. They knew you were living good with the scooters because that's a step down from the automobiles. All the cars drove bumper to bumper, 24/7, all night, all day. It was going somewhere. I don't know where that sandmill they was going, but they was going somewhere. When you cross the street, listen to me. Close your eyes and start walking. Don't stop. If you stop, they'll run over you. But if you walk, they'll go around you. Nobody blows their horns. Nobody gets upset. Nobody angry and cussing and screaming. None of that. None. That's one of the first things you begin to notice. Nobody gets upset. If you can, let's just take one city like Shanghai. If you can visualize, I have no idea what the percentage of seniors would be, but let's just use a figure of 30% of 28 million were senior citizens. That 28 million, everyone that could walk would get up every morning between 7, 8, and 9 o'clock, go outside, zero weather, go to the park and exercise every day. It's unbelievable. We were on the buses. We left our hotels every day at between 8 and 9, going to our different visitation sites. And every time we got on the bus, because parks that I'm talking about are everywhere. Parks are everywhere. And all the parks would be filled with seniors. And they were exercising, doing exercise type stuff, fingers, it's just unbelievable. I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it. So we traveled, we went every day. There was something to do, and I can't tell you where I went and what I did, but I can tell you all the major places I was there. I went and walked the Great Wall of China. You can't even visualize what that was about. I'll just give you an example to show you how big it was. They said if you would stretch it out in a single line, the entire wall, it would go from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's how long the wall is. And it curls and turns and goes down and up because it goes all through the mountain regions. When you can only get on the wall in certain areas. So our bus, when we went to the Great Wall, and the Great Wall is in Beijing. That was our last stop city. And when you went to the Great Wall, the buses came into the huge parking lot. We were the first because we left our hotels about 7:30 on that day. I think it was Sunday, the last Sunday, a couple of days ago. And we went straight to, we had finished breakfast, and we went straight to this parking lot. And you get off the bus. We was the only ones there. So from the time we walked from the bus and went to the first landing site. Let's call it a marshalling area type site. When you start the step climb to go up the mountain to the top, the whole parking lot filled up with buses. I'm talking about anywhere from 25 to 35, maybe 40 buses. And all of them was loaded with tourists. Unbelievable. They say in the summertime, you can't hardly get off the bus because you're shoulder to shoulder, so many people going up, come to see the wall, go up that wall. And you ain't going all the way. I couldn't make it to the top. I'm gonna confess. But I was there, so all of y'all can forget it. I was there. And I went to probably 6 landings that you climb to. I made it to 3. I just couldn't go no further. And the reason that you have to decide if you want to go further, number one, it was cold. It was about 3 or 4 above zero, number one. Number two, the steps are not steps like you would imagine. Steps some were 12 inches high, right next going up, then you'll have a 32-inch high, then you come down to 4-inch high, then you go back to 12-inch high. You don't realize it because you live in America and all the steps are the same size, so you don't have a problem. But if you ever walk on a staircasing where the steps have different dimensions of sizes, you'll realize what I'm trying to tell you. It's difficult on your body because you're not used to it. So you can fall very easily. And if you fall, it's over with when you're going up because all steps go up. So once you start falling, everybody just step aside, your butt just go all the way back down to the bottom, to that landing, marshalling area, like I call it the marshalling area.
Is it any railing?
Yes. When you're on the steps, you got railing. But once you meet the marshalling area, it's flat, but it's at an incline. And you hold on to the wall. You know, them kids was running. You know how them kids are just acting crazy. I said, y'all go ahead. But what I did, I had to hold that wall or walk close to the wall on the platforms. But then you get back to a level platform, then you start the steps again. And you look over the side, you so far up looking down, you just say, ain't no army going to come in there because you can't get through the terrain on the ground way down there. What you going to do, you know? And because you're so high on the wall that you got the advantage over your enemy because he's looking up and you're looking down, tearing his butt up. And you can see how they protected themselves. Most armies, just when they saw that wall, they just go back. There was no room to attack because they had them under control with that big old wall. It was unbelievable. Now, that was in Beijing. So let's go back to Shanghai. Shanghai has the fastest train in the world. Believe me, the fastest train in the world. That baby went 32 kilometers an hour. And that was around 340 to 350 miles an hour. I don't know how to calculate them kilometers to the mileage. Somebody out there may know how to do it. But it was 432 kilometers. That's how fast that sucker went. So the distance from downtown Shanghai to the airport was approximately 35 miles. I'm going to ask you, Beth, how long do you think it took that train to go at 35 miles?
I already know.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
7 minutes. And the damnedest thing about it is there's 2 sets of railroad tracks. They got 2 trains. So when one is going to the airport, there's always one coming back. Those guides know from the speedometer when that other train is coming. That's the only way you can tell by the speed of the train that you're on, because it's all electronic, ran by magnets. So the first time we passed it, everybody in our group screamed. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So and then they started laughing. So, like, what was that? They said that was the other train passing. So they explained to us it was approximately 10 feet, let's say 20 feet. It was approximately 20 feet between the trains. one set of tracks and a second set of tracks. And when the two trains passed each other at that rate of speed, it created a combustion. So all you would hear was like a sound barrier, boom. I mean, like an explosion, and I mean quick. So when we came back, they said, now we're going to give you a heads up. So they said 5. They looked at it. They began to count the seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, bow. It was over with. The train went by. Six cars on that other train. Each one of them had 6 cars. That's how fast it went by. Pow! It was over with. Just like blinking the light, not with the switch from the electrical company. If you have a quick blink, that's how fast that sucker went by. Unbelievable. So we went. That was in Shanghai. Now, one of the most powerful things I discovered, and I've been to this before when I went to the Middle East. When I went in '97, I went to the Middle East and visited the pyramids and Jerusalem and all that Christian holy stuff. And people look at you. They know you are black, number one, but they also know you are an American. And they know who you are from their history. But nobody really talks about it. So all they do is stare at you. And I mean, it's a stare of amazement. I experienced it when I went to the Middle East. I did a 14-day cruise on the Mediterranean, wife and I, in 1997. Well, this time when we went, not only was it the same, it was probably 10, 20, 30, 40 times more powerful in stares. And then they begin to run up to you, and they couldn't speak any language, but they give you enough sign language. All they wanted to do was take a picture of you, because they had never seen black folks, I'm telling you, Americans. And my son and I, and me, because my son is about 6'2", and weighs 250, 240, 50, 60 pounds. Big young man. And they just come from everywhere. You standing there talking, and here they come. They just grab you, hug you, take pictures. Can I take another one? And here come another group and another group. It was all in honor and kind of a worship type, honor type affair. So we went to the pagoda. All I can do is tell it like it was. I don't know what Samuel was. But we went to this pagoda, and it turned out to be one of the most holy places of the dynasty over there. And my son and I went. It's full of temples and gardens. If you ever seen the movie, which is a Japanese movie, that Last Samurai, The Last Samurai, all those gardens that they were reading in and sitting in, they're full of that, these areas. And they're upwards of 500 to 1,200 square acres. And it all belongs to the emperors. But today, since Mao Zedong and the so-called Republic of China came in the early 1900s, all of those huge landmarks, they were all given to the government. And they use them now as sites, visiting sites. But the monks and the priests, they still live there in these places. So my son and I went to this big one. We went upstairs, up to it, so we can take pictures up in there. And when we turned around, white folks down below, the Europeans, they were taking pictures with the monks. And when the monks saw us, they stopped. Everybody stopped. The whole courtyard down there stopped. And they were looking at us. And the monks started motioning us to come down. So we went down, and that's when they grabbed us, hugged us, told all the whiteys, now you take a picture of the monks and these two black brothers. Well, I tell you, it was the damnest thing I ever felt in my life. My heart was just bubbling and carrying on. And then when we got through, the priest, they couldn't speak English. So he kind of asked me, he kind of made it clear to me, was I Buddha? No. And then I said, okay, I'm Islam. And when I said Islam, he went to bowing and ducking. Get up, get out, get up. It was deep. And so when it was over, my son and I went around to catch our group, because our group had already left and went in another area. And I was telling my wife about it. And she said, did you get any pictures? I said, my son did. And when I said that, he was coming around that corner and came. I said, here he comes. He came straight up to me and just grabbed me and hugged me again. And I said, Lord have mercy. So now I asked him about the omic. And when I said omic, he just said no. He didn't know about that. He was only, and this is what I want to go into in maybe next hour, and that is the dynasties that they have over there and how what it was all about. As these big emperors, it's like confederations that went on in America. You look at the Iroquois Confederation, they had about 5 to 7 different tribes join the Confederation. And when they joined the Confederation, it made the Iroquois Confederation stronger, huge. And then you had the Powhatan Confederation. Well, over there, they had the Ming dynasty and the QING, I don't know how to pronounce it, dynasty, just to name a couple of the big ones. And each one of these dynasties had smaller groups within. And they all united because there was so much war going on. And you could see, and they would explain it just the way I know and try to teach here about the tribes. They do it over there as dynasties. You dig? And so you know we got to learn who we are. Everybody on earth know who we are. Everybody on earth know who we are, but us. And let's remember, I'm gonna say it again. We're the only people on earth, black, so-called black Americans, that worship a God that don't look like us. Y'all got to remember that. I mean, you got to remember it. And I learned from Buddha. They made it very clear that Buddha is not a religion. It's a way of life. Buddha is not a religion. And that was the reason they were so, and even today, that's the reason that China cannot be defeated, because their God is within. Yeah. Y'all hear me when I say this. You got to keep your God within. Once you start putting your God on the table, that's when they can conquer you. And all you Christians, well, I ain't going to go into it. Y'all got to figure it out for yourself. But I'm telling you, as long as you keep your God in your heart, I don't care what you want to call it. No one can defeat you. No one can beat you. But once you start putting it out and start worshiping something on the outside of your body, that's when they can get you. So they made it very clear that Buddha, the reason that all of the China, and they'll tell you right quick, we are not religious. Don't bring us that stuff. Now, Islam is there, don't get me wrong. Protestant is there. They got Islamic temples, Protestant temples. I didn't see any Catholic. They didn't talk about Catholic, but they did talk about Christians. They got Christian temples. Okay, good. We didn't go into that. But the bulk, over 50 to 60% of China are Buddhists. And Buddha taught them to keep the religion inside, and you'll never be conquered. Never join anything on the outside, nothing. Don't even join the Boy Scouts. Don't even join the Girl Scouts. And the reason you don't want to join, because you got to raise your hand and swear to uphold some trash that you know you ain't going to uphold, but you frown on your own God when you worship something else. So I'm just laying that out there. Y'all can do what you want, but everything I saw, my heart just said, thank my Creator for letting me see it. And I understand now all the stories that I've learned about Islam and Yaqub and Jacob. All those stories, I can see how they're true, because the Buddha, these dynasties. Listen to this. This is heavy. The dynasties were defeated. The biggest dynasty, and I'm going to talk about dynasties in a little bit, but the biggest dynasties that were defeated, they were defeated by trickology. And
sounds familiar.
Yes. Now listen to this. A eunuch. They kept talking about eunuchs. Now, I kept telling myself, I think I know what a eunuch is. And let me explain a eunuch from what I know about it, then I'll tell you what they said. A eunuch is referred to as a Gillian horse. I think you pronounce it Gillian. All right, you got the mare, female, and you got a stallion. Now, the mares, you can always put the stallion with the mares, but you can never put a stallion with the Gillians, because the Gillians are stallions, born stallion, but they neuter them. They neuter them. There you go. They neuter them. And they don't grow as big, but they're half male and half female, the Gillian. So they were saying that the kings, and back in the day, they would what did I call them? I'm starting talking about the Gillians. They call them, what did I tell you they call them? It'll come to me. Anyway, all the kings had these things that protected the king, because you can always get to a man if you lure him with women, and then you trick him through the woman to get to the king or the emperor, that type of thing. The eunuchs. Y'all need to look up that word eunuch, the eunuchs. Anyway, the Mongolians and the Manchurians were smart enough and used trickology, the eunuchs, and start spreading rumors inside the dynasties of the emperors, which caused massive confusion, because the kings took most of their information from their eunuchs. So the eunuchs always studied and went abroad and all that kind of stuff. Strange. But this is the same story I heard in regards to Yaqub, when you go into studying about Yaqub, the big head scientist. But anyway, they tricked them enough that they opened up the gates. That's what I'm getting at. Somebody opened the gates of the Great Wall, and the Manchurian armies walked right in and defeated dynasties and took over stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. And they only did it, if they kept the gates closed, they never would have did it, never would have took over. So I'm telling you, it was unbelievable, Beverly. I had never seen my heart was hurting, because I was learning or better yet, what can I say? It was reflecting what I had already seen and read and knew, which made me just made everything become real, I guess I could say. And I kept now Marco Polo. I know everybody out there should know or heard of Marco Polo. Well, when I was in school, probably late grade school, going into high school. We didn't have middle school back when I was coming up. Anyway, they talked about Marco Polo, and they talked about him as coming into China. Well, it dawned on me, and I had to get in my books. I didn't know where Marco Polo come from, because every time you seen him, he was dressed like the people there. So I get back to the States and get on my computer. I had a computer, but I didn't deal with it. And come to find out, Marco Polo was an Italian. Mm-hmm. And let me read this to you. Marco Polo, Italian, was a merchant traveler. Now, you know about Marco Polo, right, Bev?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
All right. So Marco Polo was he was a merchant traveler who travels are recorded in the book of the marvels of the world, also known as the Travels of Marco Polo. 1300 AD, a book that introduced the Europeans to Central Asia and China. To me, is very important because the Europeans cannot go into China, or better yet, nobody can go into another culture and be successful unless you're introduced to the culture. And Marco Polo, they used him. I don't even know if he was a real person, but they used him in my school teachings to show his story, what they thought about China and Central Asia. Okay, I was there as Marco Polo. I didn't get out of it what Marco Polo got out of it, because I know what was going on in Europe, because you know they were so backwards in Europe. They thought the earth was flat. Well, the Chinese have always been heavyweights in all types of discoveries and electronics and different stuff. They got all that going. Well, if you look at the timeline, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, the timeline of these dynasties, you will see that the Olmec was on the earth prior to the beginning of these dynasties. So my point is, when we left Shanghai and flew into Xi'an, got on the bus and was going to our hotels, the guide began to introduce himself. We had a new guide in every city. We had a international guide who traveled with us everywhere, but each city had its own local guide. Well, the local guide was introducing us to him himself and was in the city of Xi'an. He said, right now you can look to your left and you'll see the burial grounds of this emperor who was a big heavyweight over a huge dynasty. So everybody started looking off to the left, and everybody was saying, I was near the back of the bus. You know, black folk got to go to the back of the bus. I'm in the back of the bus, and I heard him white talking about, where? We don't see nothing. He said, that mound right there, that mound. I'm looking right at it. It was a hill, just like the Ouachita mound builders. It was there. It was nothing but a hill. Now, these people had so much power and so much money, they buried themselves the way the mound builders buried. Now, where did they get that from?
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. And that's when my heart began to flip right there. I said, good God. So I know from what I saw that the Ouachita and the Olmec were there or were here way before all of the dynasties, because they made it clear when they went to talking about religion. They started out with Buddha, and they just called it, because it was in the time frame, 600 years ago. 6,000 years ago. Islam, 4,000 years ago. And Christianity, 2,000 years ago. Well, when you go and look up the Olmec, they start talking about 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. You can go all the way back when you start dealing with the Olmec. So it tells you in the timeline that we were here first. And that's so important, because it tells you that you are the owner of the earth, number one, and no one can come into your jurisdiction and set up rules and regulations and start ruling you. That's how we got tricked. When the Moors let them come in and set up what we know today as United States in 1600 with them pilgrims, that's when they came in and began to set up their dynasty, if you will, and they knew from history that they had to do something with the natives or the indigenous ones that were here. And I see why they treat us the way they treat us, because if we ever wake up, it's over with. And I don't mean through bloodshed. I mean through the disappearance of the European, because he cannot stay in your zone. And he knows it. He can't feel your vibrations are too great. That's why they feed us all this trash, music, ugly, nasty foods, you name it. It only minimizes our power, especially our brain power, because we can't think, we can't concentrate, we can't meditate. So we don't know who we really are. And I'm telling you, it's the damnedest thing in the world. But we got to figure out a way to wake up our people. And it's happening now at such a rapid pace. Y'all can't see it because you don't know you're asleep. That's the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah.
You can't wake up because you don't know you're asleep. But Marco Polo set up a trade from his father and his uncle, who traveled through Asia, and they met a great Genghis Khan, or Kublai Khan, not Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, in 1269 A.D. They returned to Venice, and then they met Marco Polo for the first time. That was a father and uncle. So two brothers went, and they came back, and then they had Marco was there. The three of them embarked on the epic journey of Asia, returning after 24 years back to Venice, Italy. They found themselves at a war with the Genoa, whoever it is, I don't know. Marco Polo was imprisoned and dictated his story of his travels to a cellmate who began to write it down. He was released in 1299, became a wealthy merchant, married, and had 3 children. We don't need to know about all that. But anyway, all of that, because you got to look at things the way they are. You got to take it as it is. You ain't got to listen to read all that trash, because all that does is bring in his story. We have no idea about us, because nobody has told the story of us from us. Because remember what J. Edgar Hoover said: if they ever scream for a leader, we, Europeans, must give them one. Do not let them create their own leader. Once you do that, all Europeans are through. So every leader we've had that's been successful, talking about the Martin Luther Kings, the W.E.B. Du Bois, I ain't calling it so long, Washington, all of that stuff, they gave us that. And then they make it be what they want it to be. So don't forget when they even talked about the 5 civilized tribes. Why do they call it the 5 civilized tribes? Because they only picked those black people who wanted to be like the European. That's what made him. That's why they call them the 5 civilized tribes, because they were close to living like the European, dropping their Islamic names or their spiritual names, wearing clothes, and speech, different language. They don't talk that language in here. You got to talk English, stuff like that. It's unbelievable. Okay? Marco Polo was not the first European to reach China, but he was the first to leave a detailed chronicle of his experience. This book inspired Christopher Columbus and many other travelers. There is a substantial literature based on Marco Polo's writings. He also influenced European cartography, leading up to the introduction of the maps of the Middle East. Now, Far East. Dynasties in Chinese history. I think we went to every one of the dynasties. And when I say dynasties, you need to look at it as though we're talking, about confederations. Because that wall is so huge, didn't know one dynasty build that wall. The way they said it, they don't even know how long it took to build it. They don't know when it started. But one area, because there's so many mountain ranges, they got a mountain range that's as big as the Appalachian Mountain Range here in the United States. The one that comes out of Carolinas all the way up through Pennsylvania, all the way up into New York, that whole mountain range. And remember, when you study history over here, they talk about the proclamation line. Y'all need to look that up. They call it the Proclamation Line of 1663. Proclamation Line. You look that up. You'll see where King George III told the Europeans you were not allowed to cross the Proclamation Line. They'd kill you. If they catch you crossing it, they'd kill you. They told them to stay on the east side of the mountain, because that was the only land they were given. And that's where your 14 colonies were. 13 colonies were. See, and once they begin to teach us this trash, and we begin to graduate and begin to be rewarded for being a dummy by giving us certificates and diplomas and degrees and PhDs and masters, we became walking dead. That's what Negroes, so-called Negroes, walking dead. It's like in series on TV, Walking Dead. Don't know nothing. And most of them don't want to know nothing because they don't want to give up the privileges and our benefits. But I'm telling you, I see it, and it's coming, and they know it's coming. Okay? So
it kind of seemed like that wall kind of is like the wonders, like the pyramid.
Yes, it's the 7 wonders of the world. China, the Great Wall of China is one of them. Pyramids, another one. The huge Niagara Falls is one. And then they got something big down in Argentina, Brazil. That great big old thing they got down there. The 7 wonders of the world. Yes, Great Wall. I'm telling you, once you see it, you'll never forget it.
Well, Ron, you done started something, don't you?
What I started?
Now
Travel?
You know that a lot of us is gonna go over to China.
Yes.
And visit, so you have really got our curiosity going.
Listen to me. I pray that you go. If I had the money, I'd send you. Just get over there to see it. You got to see it. Your whole head will open up. And then we had a brother that called the show last night, Brother Akbar. He was in the Vietnam War. Oh, yeah, let me say this first. Tiananmen Square.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I went to Tiananmen Square. And they were doing that duck march. They had them soldiers out there. Soldiers had on military jackets. It was zero. It was zero. Cold as hell. And all the buses came. We had to park in a certain area, so you had to walk. You couldn't drive the buses into Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square was about 100 square acres of land, and most of it was cemented flat. And that wind was cutting up coming across there. And I saw some blackies. And you know, I worked my way over. I just left the group. I went over there. Hey, you, what's happening? Yeah, what the hell are you doing over here? He started laughing. I said, what you doing over here? I said, well, I'm on a tour. And he went to laugh. Black man over here? I said, yeah. I said, where are you from? He was a military. He's a soldier from Korea. He was stationed in Korea. And that's when I learned that some of the soldiers over there, realizing their opportunity, they take a trip. It wasn't very far, very close. Korea's close. Japan is close. So they all would come and take a trip to China just to see it. And they get in those tours so they'd have it. Now, the tours is all set up where everything is free. I'm just going to say it. Everything free. You know, your hotel fare is paid for. Your food, 3 meals paid for. All meals are between 6, 8, and 10 course meals. Every meal. And they feed you at a round table. And the round table has a lazy Susie in the middle. Now, all y'all don't know what a lazy Susie is. That's like when you go in the Arab party store, they got that turnstile that let you so you can't get back, and they turn your product towards you. That spinning thing is called a lazy Susie. Well, they got a huge lazy Susie on the table where you eat. and the chefs come out and sit your dish, your 8-course meals, onto the Lazy Susie, and all you do is turn it. And as you turn it, you take off what you want, keep turning it, take off what you want, like that.
Now, what kind of food were they serving?
Every meal, rice, every meal, morning, noon, and night. Rice, noodles, and vegetables.
Okay.
And then they would make fancy stuff. I can't tell you what it was. You know, I'd eat the rice, and when they had chicken that had gravy, they had some chicken with gravy, I tore that stuff up and told them they won't bring out another course. When they give you one for the table, that's it. I told them, y'all gonna bring me another one. Them suckers. It was a potato, some nice potato, gravy, and beef. I don't know what they had a name for it. I said, I want some more of that. So they had to go in the kitchen. Rather than bring out another dish for the table, they brought me a cup of it that I ate personally, gave it to me. And that's every meal. Now, breakfast, we taught them how to make a omelet. They didn't know what an omelet was. And it's a hell of a thing trying to talk and deal with them because they don't know what the same meal you talking about. I don't care what you say. They just look at it. So we had a lot of fun. They like to talk to us because you know how I act, Beth.
Right.
They loved it, you know. And I could get what I wanted to get, you know, when they go get it for me. Go get it. And you have, you know, you get your beer and your wine if you want it. But most of the time, they have some very nice beer. Real nice beer. And you drink that. I had to do that in order to eat because I ate one of them meals, one of them servings. They had some red hot something in it. That sucker was so hot, but the chicken was in. I was trying to pick that chicken out, but I couldn't get it out. It just kept burning my lips. I had to give me that beer. I drank that cold beer. I had a ball.
Now, what was the name of the travel company that y'all use?
Wendy Wu, W-E-N-D-Y, Wu, W-U.
Okay.
Now, speaking of Wendy Wu, China is known for silk, jade, G-A-D-E, and parsnel. Parsnel. And we went to the jade factory. Whoa, you talking about some beauty. God almighty, no.
Can you bring the stuff back home with you?
You know I brought some stuff back. You know I brought some stuff back. I got something I got to get for you. Don't worry about it. We brought some stuff back. And we bought some jade. And you can't really realize the expense of jade and parsnel. I'm calling it I know what it is.
Is that what they make the parchment paper out of?
No.
Okay.
This is what you got in the kitchen. How can I say?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Porcelain.
Yeah, porcelain. There you go. They're known for that. That's where it comes from, China. Right. That and silk. And they showed us how they make silk. Unbelievable. We went where they made the silk. Oh, I forgot. We went to let me pronounce this right, Tenakaka warriors, where their temple, who protected the emperors. Right. They don't call them samurai. The samurai is Japanese. But over there they call them Tene. I got it. I can't pronounce it.
Did they have all the statues?
Every one of them. Yes. All the weapons, the bow and arrows, them swords. God almighty, no. Heavy blades, big blades, big swords. And then they had a thing, and I got it. You can put your head in it, your face in it, and it was a statue. You put your hands in it, and when you take a picture, it looked like you were dressed up like a Taka warrior. That's what they call it. Yeah, we went there and we did all that. Yep. Unbelievable. And silk suits and garments and materials. Just remarkable. My wife is a seamstress. She sews and knits. She went bonkers looking at that stuff.
I know she did with that.
Yeah, man. Unbelievable. Yep. Now, listen to this. It was rare for one dynasty to transition smoothly to the next, as is depicted in history timeline. They try to set it up where this timeline belonged here. No. One stayed until it got wiped out. And as it was being wiped out, another one came. It's almost like what Bush did to Iraq. And that was, they went in and killed the dynasty in power, which was, you know who he was, the king over there. Hussein, yes. And by wiping out Hussein and his so-called Red Guard, they created a vacuum. That's what the problem is right now in the Middle East. That dumb Bush, by killing off Hussein and not leaving troops, it created a vacuum. So all factions of Iraq sucked into Baghdad. And the ones that could make the best deal got the best arms to fight to create the new dynasty. You follow me? So some that would ask United States for it, United States, you know how crooked they are. If you didn't do what they said, they ain't going to do this and they ain't going to do that, which is okay. So they say the hell with it. Russia's sitting right there. Russia, give it to them. Turkey got armed. Turkey gave it to them. Now there in Iraq, you got so many weapons and rockets and all kinds of stuff that everybody's fighting now. And the United States realize they never talk about that dumb Bush by creating that madness. By him destroying Saddam Hussein, he created the entire mess that's over there in the Middle East today.
That was the game plan.
Well, they got a mess. You can call it a game plan, and I agree with you. But the mess. See, and then another thing, they had to get rid of some of those heavyweight leaders over there, like Muammar Gaddafi, like over Egypt, Baraka, I can't call his name, I remember it, had them sons, that's two. Then you had Saddam Hussein was three, and they wanted to, and who they're after now is Iran and Syria. Well, they're talking this morning, and see, they talking today. They can't get rid. They can't get rid of Syria because Russia needs Syria in order to protect its borders. The United States, I'm telling you, it's a mess. The news over there explains a lot because they don't tolerate the garbage that they put on the news over here that fools us and tricks us and makes everybody our enemy. There's no enemy out there against us. They're against the governments and corporations who do all that trash. But they have to keep everybody fooled by sending out their flunkies, such as Obama, let the world know black people are happy and dancing in the street. Then you got the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and the jackleg ass preachers who are going to tell everything is okay or hunky dory, and they tell you that we don't believe it.
So over there, they think that the blacks, the indigenous people in the United States are happy.
Yes, and that white people, we beg white people to stay and help us. Yes, that's what they do. I'll just tell briefly. I had a
do they get any of the news that of all the killings of our young black children that's going on with the police department?
The only news they got, which was a surprise to me, was what's going on in Chicago now.
Okay.
The other ones, they never got it on the news, but they got it on the internet. But they couldn't talk to anybody to verify this or verify that. I had an interview over there, but I'll just leave that quiet for a minute.
Okay.
I don't want to deal with that. But the bottom line is, the United States projects to the world what they want the world to know, and their borders are so tight, so you ain't got to worry about terrorists or so-called immigrants. We got to worry about terrorists because you got people that are here that are angry because somebody's doing something to their families over there. You got to think about that for a minute. What is a terrorist? It's something that, to me, a terrorist is only a person or a group that's angry at somebody that's doing something to them.
Right.
So you can't like Obama. I bet you half America don't know Obama's been bombing Iraq and Syria ever since he's been in office.
Right.
He didn't do it like Bush with them big bombers and planes. He's doing it with them drone missiles, those drones. And they're killing just like they've been killing. So you got people in America that got families over there, And so now they're creating such a mess that they just don't know how to get out of it or calm it down. And so now, for example, if anyone read the article that I told you about last week or the week before, the 14 African countries that are under the thumb of France, do you realize that, now I don't know what's going on today, but in the beginning, when they was arresting and killing the so-called terrorists, 80 to 90% of those they killed came from Africa. They didn't belong to ISIS. They belonged to other groups that were fighting in their countries for relief of France's ugly political and economic ways. But then all of a sudden, the United States said, well, they were ISIS because now ISIS said they supported what they did, which is understandable. I can see where they would support it, but they didn't do it. So, and we get it all mixed up. They throw it to us in such a way that we don't know right from wrong, so we just go with the flow of the news media. So when you go over there and hear the news that's created abroad, I sit and listen 2 days in a row of a former Peru president. Ooh, I love that interview. Laid it on the line. He talks about it right like it was. That he ain't gonna buy the garbage from China, nor will he buy it from the United States. He's only gonna vote to the best interests of Peru. And then another Australian guy came on and said the same thing. Because those powerhouses like the United States and China are trying to do certain things. And each one of them is trying to stop the other one from doing it. So it creates ugliness, and then it turns into a war. Because less than 10 days to 2 weeks ago, they were telling China to get off an island that sit out there. And China told the United States, mind your own business. You ain't over here. They was building a whole lot of stuff on this island. But all of a sudden, the United States stopped talking about it, especially after the France situation. Let's go ahead.
Now,
take a break.
I forgot what part, but remember the son of the guy that died, the emperor, and they were saying that the son was crazy. What part was that?
North Korea. I think you're talking about North Korea.
Okay, that was in Korea. Okay.
Yes, but that's where Rodman went and was sitting down there talking to him. Rodman. Yeah. Yep. That's not. They had an in-depth conversation. They had an in-depth conversation. That was North Korea, but there were gugons of Koreans living in China and vacating in China. It's unbelievable what they do or how they do it. It ain't nothing like you would think. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of dynasties, and I would invite any of the questions that we get from the people. Let's take some questions. Always been to relate the earth to American blacks, and I'm just going to call them American blacks. And I took that whole trip to China and I put it into a package that would benefit us as blacks. And that's why I compared the dynasties of China with the Olmec, because the Olmec has the historical history of who they are, where they come from, and that type of thing. And I finally got a book. I found a book from Amazon. It's called Olmec Religions. I haven't had a chance to get in it yet, but it's called Olmec Religions. But just we'll tap at. Let me see how I do this. Let me tap at this in regards to the Olmec. According to archaeologists who recently participated in archaeological work in Mexico, one of the most ancient civilizations in the Americas, the Black (Negroic) Olmecs, we're talking about Black Olmecs, developed a calendar that goes back to about 3,113 years before Christ. The archaeologists who appeared on the Art Bell show made that point. I wanted you to know that Art Bell was a European talk show host that set up the trip that I took. I used to listen to him at night. He came on from 1 o'clock to 5 in the morning. Have you ever
they still come on.
Yeah, but that George Norrie, George Art comes on every now and then, or he doesn't come on at all.
I haven't heard him in a while. It's been a while since I heard him.
I think the program was bought out, and this George Norrie, who was the spokesperson, I stopped listening to it. But I went with Art on that Mediterranean Cruise of the Civilizations, he was called, in 1997. And he had a beautiful show.
Yeah.
The ancient Olmecs of Mexico, the Mesoamerican and the Mesoamericans are one of the most intriguing civilizations of the Americas. In fact, they are the first civilization in Mexico, and it was from them that all other civilizations in Mesoamerican followed. Yet, the fact that the Olmecs were most likely a black civilization of African origin has not been made public, and the Indian elements in Mexico have gained more prominence in the extent that the Negroid substrate of the ancient Mexican Mesoamerican civilizations has been kept hidden. Yet, over the past many years, various levels of proof have been found linking the Olmecs to Africa in the western part of Africa. Now, I read that from this article called "The Olmecs and African Presence in Early America." The Olmecs and African Presence in Early America. Now, when you look up, go ahead, Bev.
Do you remember over there where they have the Myers on McNichols and Grand River, where it used to be an African museum?
Yes. It's still there.
Well, is it still there? I thought they tore it down.
It's not open, but the building's there. You're talking about Grand River and 6 Mile.
Yes. Well,
sitting right on the corner. Go ahead.
They had a display of where we migrated all over the world, and they had a picture of a guy discovered China, it was a black man with slanted eyes.
Woo! Woo!
They had his picture.
Okay. Now, I went in there. I've been in that place. And I was surprised that they didn't tear it down because, you know, they tore down everything around it to put that new Myers in.
Right.
And I met the owner, but he said that he couldn't get anybody to come, so he couldn't make any money to keep it open.
But it was some valuable information in there.
Man, he has some lovely stuff in there.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to set up with at that time, I think I was on television, and I wanted to set up an excursion just to go up there and take a group of people just to help him out. But then when they started, you know, they built that brand new building behind it, which was, I don't know, it turned into something. It's still there also. So those two buildings that you're talking, they're still sitting there, but they're right on the corner of the new Myers. Yep.
Right.
Well, if you know anything about archaeology, which I'm not a student or pro about it, I do know that every nationality or every dynasty or every group of peoples, no matter who they are, they always come out of the cold from the north and move south. And it's ironic that the Europeans, which we never even thought about in the past, they make you think that the Olmecs started in Mexico. No nation has ever started in a warm climate. They all come from the cold climate down because of travels on the earth, and they migrate. So you find the artifacts, like you got artifacts all the way up in Alaska, but it's real cold, it's hard to find. But they got artifacts all up there as the Olmec came down and started migrating into warmer climates. So when you get these articles, they make a science in America, ladies and gentlemen, to keep your history hidden. They know that once you start taking a trip like Ron March did, you're going to wake up. And once you wake up, you don't need hand grenades and machine guns and all. You don't need none of that. Just the knowledge of self is enough. Your Creator gave you enough to survive on this earth. Greed, selfishness, trickery, and all of those things creates all this evilness that's on the earth. You don't have that if your mind is set right. You don't have that type of problem. So, do you have any questions or anything over there, Beth?
No, but if you would like to ask Ron any questions or you have any comments to add, you can call 347-215-8041. Now, I got a question to ask.
All right.
You said it was a lot of smog over there. Where did it come from? I mean, is it from factories or is it just the air, the atmosphere?
A combination of all of the above, especially the cold air. Now, I can't give you much info on that, but the clouds are very low. That's number one. So cold over there. Clouds are low. Then their heating process. Now, listen to this. In the summertime, they turn off all the street lights. They never come on. And when the businesses close at night, there's no lights in the buildings. Now, everybody agreed to do that because it gets so hot in the summertime that they can't run the street lights and the business lights with the power because they'll have burnouts all the time because the air conditioned units will eat up the power. They all are aware of that. They don't get upset. But they know they'll turn off the street lights and all the shops. Now, I guess when you go into a nightclub, let's just say, I didn't see any nightclubs, but they had eating places that you could get liquor and they had music in there. You go in those places, I guess the lights would be on the inside when you got there. But as far as all the flashing lights as it was when we were there, because the whole city is lit up at night. It's just like almost like daytime. And it was such because everybody had their lights on. All the street lights was on, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But they all agreed, and everybody understands it. That's another thing that's strange. They don't get upset, and they praise their government, that the government works with the people, and they solve problems. That's another thing they do. If they got a problem, once they get it to the proper people, they solve problems, and everybody's grateful for it.
So now, this is not that communist China that we've heard that was the boogeyman.
Yes.
This is not what you're talking about, is it?
I'm looking at, I took pictures under the Mao Zedong. They got that in the Tiananmen Square. They got Mao Zedong up there, big old picture. I'm up under that baby, taking pictures. You'll see it. I'll show it to you. Yes, Red China, the evil monster that hates the earth and want to kill everybody. All that negative trash that they put in our history over here. Yes, same place. That's where I was. Yes.
Wow.
They wear those hats and got that red star, just like you see on TV. Red China. Got that star right on there. Yes. Yes. Same place. Same thing. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't go out and see it, that's why they don't want you to go. They don't want you to travel. That was one reason anytime I get an opportunity to travel, I go. Now, I've never been as concerned as I was this time for several reasons. I ain't stupid. Number one, the terrorist attack across the world was number one. Number two, United States' passport situation, number two. And then you're going into Red China that's supposed to be lock me up and throw me in a dungeon or something stupid.
Right.
You know? Right. And I get over there and find out that I was a god. Yes, you heard what I said. I was a god. Or better yet, we as blacks were gods. Wow. Everybody knew who we were. Everybody knew who we were. They come and tell them. They got point. There they are. They're over there. I even met a group of black young cats, and they was laughing and talking and having a good time. I walked right in the middle of it. What's going on in here? Where you from? And they saw me and they called me, what they call me, Pops. They said, Pops, where you from? I said, I'm from America. Oh, we from Djibouti. I said, East Africa. When I said East Africa, man, they went bonkers. They didn't think I knew where Djibouti. The name of the country is Djibouti. Oh, man, they laughed. They loved it. They really loved it. You know what Djibouti? Yeah, I know where Djibouti is. Because there's a guy here that works down at the Register of Deeds. He's got a brother that is working over in Djibouti. And I called him a lie. I say, no place called Djibouti. He said, yeah, he'll go over and look at that map right over there in the corner. He showed me right on the map. There it was, Djibouti. So when I got over there, these cats, they was black as I was, man. Look just like me. Yes. They was young dudes. I'm probably 22, 25, right along in there. They was having a good time. Yep. And every time I saw a black, I went to them. Yes, go ahead.
Now, did you see any dark-skinned Chinese people or black Chinese people?
No, I did not. But I was told that they were they told you clearly that there were people living they point to the mountains. There's a whole population of people in the mountains. They live out there. They live in caves. And they said they live better in those caves than they do in the city. And they said that because the caves are warm in the winter and cold in the summer, cool in the summer. And they're large enough. I didn't get a chance to go. And I've been on trips where they always talk about people that live in the bush, and I've been told that the more you go inland, the blacker the people become. Indeed. And so, but they don't never want to take you. They won't take you up there.
Okay.
Yep, I got a caller, Ben. Let me see what I think I do. Let me see what's happening. Area code 404-4727. Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I got a few. How y'all doing tonight, first of all?
We're doing fine, young man. How are you? Yep.
I'm doing well, man. Sit in. I think I'm going to get off the speakers, though. I hear some feedback.
But I hear
that's
you
from
clear.
Ron.
Okay, I took it off the headphones. I went to the headset. Is that a little better?
All right. Now, how about now? A little better?
Yeah, I think it's a little better now.
All right.
Yeah.
Deb, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
All right. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things you're saying, man, because I definitely want to get over there at some point. I've listened to a lot of people who've been able to travel there and, just their experience there. The one point of contention I would have with you would be on the historic thing. China is very old, classic ancient civilization.
Yes.
But you already know if we got to go older, you know where we got to go. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
We got to go in the cave.
No, we got to go. If we're talking about older than China, that means only Africa. That's the only place you can find. We're talking about Point, Kemet, South Africa, where that Scott calendar is.
But wait a minute now. I don't agree with that. Because before there was, wait a minute now, let me just say this. First of all, you got to work with timelines. That's first of all. So when you talk about Kemet and all those historical places in Africa, they have a timeline. But if you look at Mali and the Dogons, they come before Kemet and those places that you're talking about. And the Dogons were masters of the universe, of all of your astrological signs and stuff. They don't know where them Dogons come from, out of Mali. So
yeah, they get a lot of credit for astrology, and some of it is kind of overstated, but they did have an understanding of where stars were and what they meant when they came. So you got to give them that. But either way, I'm just saying we still got ancient civilizations in Africa that are a little older. But no matter what, the topic is China. I love to hear you talk about you got a picture of underneath Mao in Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
And it's amazing how much they want to try to compare Mao to some of these people in the past, like brutal dictators and all this. But they never say that Mao ran all of the Uncle Tom Chinese who were collaborating with those European invaders at the time out of that country and set them on the road to where they are now.
Correct. You're right.
And I'm starting to believe that this is my last question, but my only question for you. Is this the West stressing climate change so much? Is that in reaction to the knowing that China and India are in the early development stages, so there'll be a lot of pollution, and they're trying to use this in order to slow their development?
Yes, you answered your own question.
Right.
This is yes. Yes, Bill.
Can you repeat what he said? Because there was so much feedback, we couldn't really hear what he asked.
Okay. He was asking a question about the climate change that you're talking about today, and all of the discussion. All of a sudden, all of the modern nations are meeting and discussing air pollution and earth warming. And did I think it had anything to do with China and India, those upcoming early developing countries? And my answer is yes, yes, yes. As long as they can keep them in the old development stages, they can control them, because they can't do certain things, and I don't know exactly what those certain things are, but I know that under that pollution over there, it's a hazard, and it's a hell of a health hazard, number one. But they're still burning coal, and they got a funny kind of coal that they have over there that they make the heat with that creates all of that pollution. It could be cleared up right away. And I think the developing countries are afraid once they clear it up and begin to create these big factories, they're going to have a major problem with those countries. And they're going to knock some of the big countries like the United States out of the blocks. That's where you're coming from, right, brother?
Indeed, agree.
Yes. Now let me turn you on to something that might open up your eyes about something. The World War II. Nobody ever can explain how did Japan have something to do with World War II? When the Western world was fighting Germany, and Italy joined Germany, and then England, France, United States all was attacking Hitler. What role did the Japanese play in that? And the answer is none. None. But United States knew they had to save Europe, but they couldn't leave America and go to Europe because Japan was developing so fast that they had to think of some way to stop Japan, set them back, go to Europe, win the war, and then come back and get back into modern technology. So they dropped the atomic bomb. They created the war with Japan. Japan has always fought China. They always fought China. Japan itself is nothing more than a rock, just like England is a rock. They can't grow anything there. They don't have any machinery and factories and all of that. You ain't never heard nothing come out of England. You might get some clothes that they make, designer clothes and stuff like that. But Japan and England are basically the same type land mass. So they both had to go out and conquer stuff in order to get their materials in order to buy it. So if you look on the map, China's so huge. I asked that guy, I said, tell me one question. Answer me one question. How the hell did China kick your butt? And Japan kicked your butt. And he said it was out of ignorance of the Chinese people making bad decisions and were fighting among themselves, and Japan took advantage of it. Well, Japan was stealing all the resources. All right, so the United States got to make a decision. And back in the late 30s and early 40s, they knew they had to go to Europe and save them Europeans. But they couldn't leave America because they know that China was on the move to be better then. We'd all be speaking Chinese had they not dropped it, so they say, had they not dropped the atomic bomb. And if you look at it, they didn't drop the atomic bomb on war material machines. They dropped the atomic bomb on factories that was building industries that was making Japan a place to live. So they dropped it on civilians. They didn't drop it on the war machine. They dropped it on civilians. And I got this information from a book that Adlai Stevenson, one of them Europeans that was in the White House during that period of time, in his memoirs, he brought it up and said that they had to do that to Japan because they wanted to knock them out of the race at least 20 to 30 years, and they could only do it by dropping that bomb. And they dropped two of them, one in Nagasaki and one in Hiroshima, and they only dropped it on the civilians. So they tore down all the factories. Just like now, if they drop a bomb on Shanghai, all they're going to do is just destroy all the places where people live. But they're all in the city. They got all these people in the city.
No. Great points on Japan, and I would add, they basically took Japan's oil-producing little colonies that they had conquered and blocked them out, which forced Japan's hand in as far as Pearl Harbor, because they always presented as Pearl Harbor was an offensive attack, and actually it was defensive. And then you go to those fire raids, which were damn near as bad as the atomic bomb. There's accounts of melted glass rolling down the street, hitting Japanese citizens. And after Japan had kicked Russia's ass, that's when the West really was like, whoa, we really got to watch these guys. So, they put the base in, and they definitely tried to deter them from developing. And then they actually made a partnership with them and made them their economic junior partner in the East in order to keep watch on China. So I'm right with you on that.
Yes. And also, let's add that China is the only major country. Now, they got indigenous people, they got a government. Japan Japan is the only government on earth that does not have an army. They got a huge police force. And when the United States, when they surrendered on the ship, they had to sign that they would never have an army. Because the United States know as soon as they get an army, they're going to attack America for dropping them bombs on them.
And I want to add this source for you too, man. Check out Race War by the great Gerald Horne, probably one of the best writers living today. That brother documents a lot of the Japanese hysteria going on back in the day, because they were actually communicating with black people in America and all other areas against white folks. They actually had Jim Crow type laws, to where when blacks and whites visited, blacks got preferential treatment and whites were mistreated at a certain point. The anti-white idealism in Japan was so heavy at the time. So it's some interesting stuff, man. But brother's name is Gerald Horne, and the book is called Race War.
All right. That sounds interesting, brother. And let's not forget that Japanese was the only nation of people put in concentration camps. And they were born in America. They were American citizens born here. And the United States put them in concentration camps because they knew that what they had done, the Japanese knew what they were doing. We as so-called Americans did not know, had no idea what was going on. All we knew is they killed our people in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and that's FDR, who people love to call this man of freedom and liberty and all this other nonsense.
Yes.
And America ended up having to pay reparations to the Japanese to the tune of $2 billion for that internment, even though black folk, the most aggrieved folk in America, still haven't gotten ours. So
yes, you're totally correct. But now, if you ever look up reparations, and we're getting off the subject a little bit, but if you ever look up reparations, you'll find that no one's entitled to reparations unless there was a war declared on them. That's why the United States stopped declaring war. Now, they declared war on Japan, and that's why they had to pay Japan. They declared war on the Indians, quote unquote, during the Custer time and the Bighorn and stuff like that. And once they made us think that we were not Indians, and they created this thing called Indian, they separated us. I know for a fact in their books that they declare there's no such thing as an Indian. I have that in the Barron Law Book. It says that Indian was only created to lump all the tribes into one definition as Indian, and it would made it convenient when they did the treaties. So there's no such thing as an Indian. They made that up. And then when they set up this so-called 5 tribes, civilized tribes, they began to benefit certain people that wanted to be white. And anyone that turned white and act white as an Indian tribe, they would let them in and give them money, reservation, and whiskey. In the end of it, that's where they are today, on the Indian reservation. But that one point about reparations won't hold, though. That's going to be fought for the next 50 years. The best work going on right now is Sandy Garrity. He's an economics professor at Duke University, and he's really pushing. He's laid out a great game plan for it. But genocide is genocide, and they won't be able to get away from this by leave or some such word. So it's going to happen. Me and you may not see it. We may not be alive to see it, but it will happen. All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the time, man. Y'all keep holding it down on the show. I'm going to keep listening.
All right. I thank you. Woo! How you like that, man?
That was good. That was interesting. Now, I have somebody in the chat room with information.
All right.
They said that they were over there in 1967. They were in the Vietnam War.
All
and
right.
they say that those caves that we're referring to are the great, colossal, gigantic, massive, monolithic heads with so-called Negroid features, the big lips, the broad nose, that serve as a monument. Wait a minute. It moved. Where it moved. Wait a minute. That served as monument in the interest to the great Asiatic Black people high culture city. So that's where you need to go to the mountains up there. And then also he said that blacks are in the city, but the tour guides are not allowed to take you where they're at.
Yes. I believe that. I really do. And I've been told about those big heads. Now, if you look up Olmec, that's what you'll see. Those big, humongous heads and what have you. That's why I say that Mount Rushmore, right here in the United States, was originally Olmec heads. And they couldn't destroy them because that may be a place that I want to go, so I can clear this up in my head. They couldn't destroy it because they put it in a mountain, but they could go up and change the looks and make it look Europeans, and they called it
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mount Rushmore.
Yes. And originally it was probably the Olmec heads, not what you see today, but back in the day, because they only started talking about. I won't say only. I heard about it through Lincoln at the beginnings of the Civil War, and that was one of his jobs. He was involved in it. That's all I can say. He was involved in it. So now, why would anybody do that? Why would anybody take money? The country has always been broke, always been on a bankruptcy. Not the country. United States has always been bankrupt. They were founded on bankruptcy because they didn't need any money if they had followed the guidelines of the Constitution. So if they were broke all the time and they was always borrowing money, Lincoln borrowed a lot of money. Why would they waste the money on chipping up a big old mountain and calling it Mount Rushmore? What the hell is that about?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Now,
these are the things that you need to discuss. All right, go ahead.
Now, the person also said that the U.S. bombed Japan in World War II in an attempt to destroy the black ancient city of, I can't pronounce it,
Nagasaki.
Yes, and
Hiroshima.
Yeah. And that was littered with those great monuments that were 8 to 10 stories tall. The head, the Olmec heads. That's why he said they bombed over there.
Yes. He's right on the money. He's totally correct. I've heard that. I've read that. And they are so afraid if we wake up, the earth, that's the New World Order. I think that's a code word. When they mention New World Order, they're telling them that y'all, let's talk about them now, y'all better get your act together because black folks in America are waking up. And once they wake up, we out of the box. That's the
But
New
you know
World
what?
Order.
That's why they up there and out of space, because they know we're waking up here on this planet as fast as those 2 trains that you were on. But surprise, they starting to find out that we are the gods not only of this planet but of the universe.
Yes. They've already talked about it.
Did you see that Pepsi commercial they got out?
No, keep talking.
They just told me about it yesterday. You need to look at it.
Okay. Let me know what I'm looking for when it comes on.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Well, one of the instruments they put on the moon most lately was a machine that drove around and picked up stuff and put it back into a spaceship so it could come back to Earth. And the name of that machine was Sojourner Truth. So they're telling you right there. Why would they name it Sojourner Truth?
Right.
Yeah. So As long as we keep our God, I'm going to say it again because we're getting close to the bottom of the show. As long as we wear our Creator on our sleeve so everyone can see it, you will always be in bondage. Because they will create a God that you will worship that does not look like you. And no one can explain to me why, out of all the suffering that we have done in this country, personally, historically, and ancient, why would we worship a God that's supposed to help us that don't look like us? What concern could that God have that he's going to help us? And we're going to put all of our love and faith into that don't look like us. If I can figure that out.
And we catching pure hell. So that sounds like some kind of insanity to me.
Yeah. You're right. You are totally correcto. Unbelievable. And I tell you something else. I see what Malcolm saw when he went abroad. Because I met some European. I met one guy from Scotland. Very nice dude. Very nice European. Nice guy. I wouldn't have any problem dealing with him and go visit him. They invited us to come to Scotland. And they got blacks in Scotland. That's another thing that we don't know about. Because when you look
all over the world.
We're all over the world. When you look at those soccer games, you'll see those black players. They don't like to keep the cameras on them too much. But those black players. Now, you go up there and call one of them a Negro, you got a fight on your hands. We're the only ones that they label. We are labeled by them. And out of our ignorance, we call ourselves what they label us. And as long as we're labeled, as long as we worship a God that don't look like us, we're in bondage. They got you psychologically a slave.
Right.
Yes. It's unbelievable. Look like I got another caller. Hold on here. You code 734-6100. You have a question, comment?
Yes, I do. Brother Hickson out here in Ipsy.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Art?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I see you really enjoyed yourself over there.
Oh, I was like I almost said it. Yeah, I was very happy. I'm very enjoyed.
Yeah, but I wish you had to let us know that you was back when we could have caught your show last night.
Well, it's in the archives.
You can still hear it?
Yep, it's in the archives.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go look it up then, because Ishmael told me you was back.
Yes. It was a eye awakener to me.
I see. I'm sitting here listening to you, man, enjoying myself.
Yeah, Art, it was something else, brother.
Yeah, I was just calling to welcome you back, man, and we'll get together here soon. Just give me a call.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother.
Bye.
Bye now. Wow. Yep. Unbelievable. Woo! It was something else. That's all I can tell you.
Well, this is the kind of history lesson that I like, live and in living color.
Yes. And it confirms to me everything that I've learned, that I'm on the right track. I got a lot more to learn. I got a lot more to teach. But the bottom line I'm saying is I know now I'm on the right track, and I'll never change. I'm going to stay right where I'm at.
Yeah.
Woo! So it's been a good one. Now this yesterday and today, I want everybody to know it's a preliminary hearing of shows of the China vacation or visit. Once I get the pictures in line and get them on my website and get these names and the timetables in order, and plus I got a video. I made a video. I'm gonna get back with Art. I'm gonna give Art that video and let him put me together, part 1, part 2, whatever it is, because it's a 3-hour video, and everybody will be able to get it. Very, very economical. $10,000 a copy, and I'll give it to you on credit. I'll give it to you on credit, something like that. But I want everybody to see it. Y'all got to see this. Y'all got to see it, especially.
This is educational.
Yes.
Right. We have another call before you go.
All right, come on with it.
Okay, 713-443.
Hey, greetings, peace. How you guys doing?
Great.
We're good. How are you, brother?
I'm good. I'm well. I just had two questions for you, Ron. That just came to my mind. One of them was, did you had to take any shots when you went over there?
No.
Okay.
None. Now, when I went to Africa, I had to take a cholera and a malaria shot. But when I went to here, no, because it's so cold, disease is a rarity. Or any disease I can think of, but it's so cold, it kill all that mess. All right, go ahead. What's your next question?
And the other one, when you was talking about Japan and you went over to China, I know I watched The Last Samurai, and it showed how when the Europeans came over there to take over Japan, how they used the ninjas to kill the samurais.
Yes.
Now, what correlation does the ninjas and the samurais, what?
They got a see. All right, go ahead. Are you finished? Are you finished?
Yeah. I just did how the Europeans have used the ninjas to kill off the traditions of the samurais in Japan. Like they killed Japan's spirit with the sneaky ninjas.
Yes, but remember, we don't know the time frame of the last samurai, because those Europeans that you saw, they were trying to sell armament to the Japanese. Remember? And they came up with those rifles, and then they came up with that Gatling gun. Remember? And they were killing off all the warriors because they couldn't get to the emperors because of the samurai warriors. Well, in China, number one, China didn't want to buy any weapons from the West, so it kind of eliminates that type of thing. But now, when I mentioned to you about the what did I just had it on my mind? Those urchins, not urchins. The ones that I was talking about, the Gillian horse, when they cut off your privates and make you what did I call it, Wally? They got a name for it, where you're the warrior for the king, but you don't have any desire for sex because you've already been neutered. They neuter. So it's difficult to trick them. But some of the warmongers, such as the Manchurians and the Mongoloids, figured out a way to get to the, can't call their name again. Whatever.
You talking about the eunuch? You talking about
the eunuchs? There you go. And they used that instead of what you saw in the samurai. They used the eunuchs to trick the emperors, and they became successful. So it's a little different, is what I'm trying to tell you. I like that movie, Last of the Samurai, but the timetable was a little different. But you had the cavalry. Tom Cruise came from the cavalry, so that meant that they was in 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, during that period of time. But I'm talking about 12 and 14 AD, way back with these people. Europeans didn't have a power base back then, as they do now, or they did in samurai. You dig it? And of course, they hadn't dropped the atomic bomb on Japan at the time. But they knew Japan needed weapons because they wanted to. Japan have always needed supplies and resources from other places. So that's what Japan does. Now, United States has to protect Japan because of the war and what they did to Japan. So anybody that fools with Japan technically fools with United States. So it's a little bit different.
I've been hearing stories that one of the Rothschilds or one of the families really owned Japan.
Well, but now when you say it that way, That's true. But they didn't own the people. If you read the Rothschild, they tell you we own the money, and the money controls the people. So you're talking apples and oranges. If you bring in the Rothschild, I'll truly agree with you. But you're talking about finance. Now, Rothschilds were not very good in China because China has a criteria where the officials are the number one people, the farmers are the number two people, the contractors are number three people, and the banks are number four people. They hate bankers. So that freezes out Rothschild. And they don't have credit in China. I didn't see it. They got a lot of banks, but they didn't have credit. When you buy one of them flats, which is nothing more than an apartment in one of them high-rise, they say it takes 50 years to pay that sucker off. And then we said, how do they pay it off? They pay it off, and then they give it to, they have to pay the government. And then they hand that apartment down from generation to generation to generation. It takes 50 years to pay it off. But they don't have credit like you think they have in the United States, that type of thing. And I didn't get that deep into it, but they didn't have it. And they hate banks. They hate bankers. They made that very clear. Nobody cares about a banker. They hell with them. So I don't know that much to help you any more than when I say, go ahead.
There's a movie called The White Winner. The White Winner. Dang, I can't think of the name right now, but
all right.
Actually,
what was it about?
Will Smith is in there. It was actually about a guy fulfilling his destiny, and then there was a demon that was out of here, but the demon was betrayed. It went through time. It started way back in like the 14th, 15th century, but he had fulfilled his destiny in the 20th century. Well, back in the 14th, 15th century, the demon who was trying to keep him from fulfilling his destiny was a Jew, and I could tell he was a Jew because how his operation was set up. He had people like you taking bribes or racketeering. He had different stuff lined up. He was going to the office, and then when it went forward to the future, to the 21st century, his office was the stock market. The office had changed from, I guess but
all right. Well, that sounds like
I bring that up to say there's a group of people that's trying to keep us from fulfilling our destiny that's here. But I don't think that, just like in the movie, they're not gonna be able to stop it. Because like it was in the movie, an angel, something was sent to him. It was a white horse was sent to the dude who was trying to fulfill his destiny. That kept him going and kept him away from that demon.
All right, I hear you clear. And let me end you by saying this: if you don't stay on the path of righteousness, you going to hell in a handbasket. And that would fit right in what you're saying, because in order for you to fulfill your destiny, you got to walk a path of righteousness. And they force us to get off the path by liquor, alcohol, gambling, you name it, rap music, and all kind of stuff. And I ain't gonna jump on the rappers, but they do all kind of things to get us off our path. So that angel you're talking about is what I'm relaying to you. You got to stay on the path in order to see and feel and take advantage of the angels. So I hear you clear, brother, and I appreciate your comment. All right?
Thank you, caller.
Peace, bro. Peace. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron. We appreciate you. We appreciate the information. I know that you are going to connect the dots for us. And until next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.
All right. Until then, have peace and love. And I want everybody to study, read, just start looking up some of this stuff. And whatever feels good to your heart is good for your soul. Some of these things that they put out here, they don't feel right. You know it ain't right. So leave it alone. Until next week, man.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love.